Business. Time to welcome back to the show, Councilwoman Laure White Adams. Laurie, good morning. Welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing very well. So, y'all got to hammer out the Airbnb stuff on Wednesday.
We did. So, short-term rentals have operated really without, any ordinance or regulation up until this point. Some are, owner-occupied, and people are renting out rooms, and others are whole house where the owner's not present. And so we passed those ordinances on Wednesday night, but left out the conditional use permit for the whole house short-term rentals.
We'll get to that part in just a minute because there are serious questions, out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. If you are a homeowner living in your home and you're renting out, say, the apartment over the garage or whatever, completely different scenario. But let's go back to the no regulation before this. Yeah. I'm a user of Airbnbs. I like Airbnbs. How do we compare to other metropolitan areas? How do we compare to other cities? Yes, honestly, everywhere I've used an Airbnb would be in what would be considered a vacationing or a destination city. Right. So how do we compare? Do others have regulations that are similar to what we enacted?
Yes, I think yes. And of course, I think all these, municipalities, it's taken a while for them to kind of get their hands around short-term rentals and how to handle them. But sure, we're bringing ourselves in line with other municipalities. Of course, some municipalities have, way, heavier, more regulation than what we do. Somewhere like New Orleans, they would need to have more because of the French Quarter and which you would see there.
Right.
So, with here, we're dealing in historical areas mostly.
But the use of an Airbnb in the French Quarter would have a different implication than the use of an Airbnb out in Metairie. True, Metairie is not New Orleans. Then let's say Lakeview. You're looking at, this is
absolutely,
what you're getting into if you're getting an Airbnb in the quarter.
Absolutely.
You're not new here, that sort of thing.
No, and to some degree, we have the same thing like Spanish Town, Beauregard Town, compared to renting in just a regular neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
How big of a problem has this been that pushes us to the need for a regulation?
So I think problems probably started 3 years ago when the short-term rental ordinance group was formed. I'll tell you, in my district, I haven't had a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, as a former school administrator, there were a couple times that heard about kids in high school renting out a house. Yeah.
Really?
To have a party. Yeah. So I think the neighbors in those neighborhoods were not real happy.
I would imagine
when those things happen. Yeah.
Talking with Councilwoman Laure White Adams about the Airbnb regulations that went down on Wednesday night. Okay, need a permit now.
So yes, occupational license to be able to have people either stay in your house or a whole house permit. The thing that or whole house rental. So sorry. The thing that did not pass was the conditional use permit for whole house rentals. So what the study group proposed is that people who were going to rent out an entire house they did not occupy would have to go before the Planning Commission to get a conditional use permit, just exactly what you would have to do if you were to operate a bed and breakfast.
Right. And to me, there is a difference there for sure. But at the end of the day, though, everybody who is an Airbnb is a business. Don't you have to have some level of licensure or in that regard?
What we've been told and what the planning director spoke to on Wednesday night, it's not really a business per se, and not the same as Guarantee Broadcasting sitting right here on Government Street. It is a use that is similar to what is happening already in that area, in that zoning. So it doesn't have to be zoned business. But so your people are coming, they're sleeping, they're possibly eating, but they're not doing activities that are very different from what the normal use of that property is. So now they do have to have an occupational license.
Yes.
The conditional use permit, I think, is probably a good idea.
So okay, let's walk down that path. Let's walk down that path because if I own a home and I have an apartment over my garage and I want to rent that out. Yeah. That's one thing. If I own a strictly Airbnb property and I'm only there for the cleanup and the setup,
that's right.
And other than that, it's out of sight, out of mind, that is a completely different scenario. It's a completely different circumstance. Now, on the flip side of that, my rights as an owner shouldn't change one way or the other, but
Right.
I think we all see that it is different.
Right. I do understand that. And I think that's why the study group had that conditional use permit in there, because they felt like it needed a level of inspection by the planning commission so that they could look and make sure that everything was in place for that rental, that whole house rental, to be a good neighbor, to be a good property. And certainly I'll tell you, for me, we continue to struggle with housing. We continue to not have enough housing in this city. So the list
baffles me.
I know, isn't it amazing? But we don't have enough housing. So my concern is, housing is an asset. It's a community asset. And every time we take a whole house out of residential use, we're decreasing our assets for our residents. And so I think the conditional use permit would help us monitor how many homes we're taking out of residential use. Because think, Brian, every time we take a house out of residential use, right, then other things have to be built to help us meet our housing needs. Floodplain, wetlands, flooding issues. We need to be thoughtful. We need to be thoughtful.
Yeah, and anytime you remove a single family dwelling,
absolutely,
you get a couple of those together, and now you have to build something bigger.
That's right.
The market's going to drive the overwhelming majority of that, but keeping an eye on it would be important as well.
Yeah, sure.
One more on the Airbnb stuff before we move on. We're talking with Councilwoman Laure White Adams about short-term rentals. The permits that are needed, how are they? Are they expensive enough to affect the pricing of an Airbnb? One of the appeals of signing up to go Airbnb is, as opposed to a hotel, is you can beat the rate. And that's one of the things hotels have complained about. Same way cab drivers complained about Uber when it first launched. One of the things that is part of the appeal is I could get a hotel room for X amount of dollars, or I can get an entire house for less than that.
Sure.
How onerous is this going to be?
Well, the licensure, the occupational licensure, it's like $125, but I think they said a $15 tech fee. So you're looking at $140.
Right.
That's not a large barrier to entry. To apply for the conditional use permit, if that had gone in and go before the planning commission for a whole house, that was $600. That's a little bit bigger barrier to entry, but still $600 to be able to rent out your whole house is not substantial.
All right.
And that's a one-time fee. I think the $125, I think that's an annual fee. I think you have to renew that every year. So again,
that can be absorbed over 2-3 renters without really affecting the price overall.
And these properties are paying sales taxes, so they're contributing to the economy.
Well, and meanwhile they're also paying property taxes
absolutely,
as well.
Yes.
So
right,
and that's where I get back to the
absolutely
your rights as an owner. You're a taxpayer as an owner as well.
Yes.
So all right,
agreed.
The conditional permit. Did that feel resolved, or do you get the vibe that it's going to come back?
I think it's going to come back. The short-term rental group worked on this for 2.5 to 3 years. Apparently, from what they told us Wednesday night, when the group came together, they looked at each other and thought, there's no way we're going to agree. And then found themselves being able to get to agreement. And I think they were upset that the council didn't get to the place on Wednesday night where they had gotten to as a group. So I think you're going to see it come back around and more discussions take place.
Last one on this one, and because I want to talk noise ordinance, and you've got a budget in front of you with highlighter running through it, so I want to tap in on that a little bit as well. You talk about the group that got together. Where is the HOA's role in all of this? Because that is so many differing opinions and so many different regulations and.
Absolutely. So, a lot of HOAs would have covenances against this. So, not every neighborhood is able to have a short-term rental just right now. The Federation of Civic Associations was at the table, so that's where you're getting your HOAs and your civic associations.
So they were able to come together as one voice.
They were, yeah, absolutely. Which is great to see a group do that kind of work.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think more discussions are gonna take place. There, a lot has been happening on Metro Council. Is that the understatement? Thank you for laughing at me.
No. That is quite the understatement, Laurie.
We probably haven't been able to give short-term rentals the full attention that we need to. So
well, I
think we'll have some good conversations.
You could just say you were forced to sign an NDA about it.
Yeah. Well, there were no NDAs with regards to the short-term rentals.
Fair enough.
Anyway, I think the conversations will continue, and we're certainly grateful for the group that met for a couple years to bring those ordinances to us.
Absolutely. All right. Councilwoman Laure White Adams in studio. Per Paul Kobler over at The Advocate, one of downtown Baton Rouge's most popular bars cannot be found in violation of the city parish's noise ordinance because the law is too vague, ruled the parish board that regulates the sale of alcohol following a first-of-its-kind hearing Thursday that tested the board's ability to litigate noise complaints. Now, y'all don't do the ABC stuff, but the noise ordinance stems from y'all, does it not?
It does. It does. This is the noise ordinance that's been in place for a while.
Yes.
That's right.
And so we've had Denise Amoroso on about this before as well because it's affected some a bar out on Coursey, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Well, again, the number of things coming in front of the Metro Council right now, I don't know how this gets a seat at the table, but is this going to be a bigger problem moving into next year?
That's a great question. So some of the problems that we've had, I think, have been solved. This hearing was just yesterday. So, I got probably 1 or 2 minutes last night with a couple council members to just understand what had happened at the ABC hearing. And that people are saying that the ordinance, what's currently on the books, is not clear enough. We're going to have to look at this. I'll tell you, we had a big kerfuffle in District 11 on Saturday night. We had fireworks, after a wedding at the Baton Rouge Country Club at midnight, and so my inbox has been pretty full since that time.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's but with the gun violence in the city,
I would imagine,
and people waking up in the middle of the night, and of course, who wakes you up? Your dogs. Your dogs absolutely lose their minds. Right?
Oh no, the gunshots themselves wake me up.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well. Anyway, I know. So anyway, we're gonna have to take a look at this all the way around and just make sure that we get things to where they need to be. Certainly our 3rd Street bars. We want them to be able to operate. I need to better understand. What's going on with the neighbors.
Well, I lose a lot of sympathy if you're talking about downtown.
Right.
You knew what this was. Again, you moved in next to a bar and you're going to complain about. Okay, you moved in next to the airport and you're going to complain about the noise. I mean that sort of thing.
Right. No, I understand that. If I lived in or around 3rd Street, I would expect, just like when I stay in the French Quarter, downtown, or travel to cities where I'm in the heart of downtown. I expect to hear some noise throughout the night.
The thing that was coming up when we talked with Denise, gosh, this was months ago. The more I think about it, it was that much longer ago. She was looking to clarify where enforcement would come in, and ABC handles enforcement, and ABC still handles enforcement.
Yes.
How does this get back onto y'all's plate?
I am guessing that Denise will have some suggestions. That Councilwoman Coleman will probably also have some suggestions, and that we'll start having conversations about what we need to do moving forward. So, but good to have the ABC board to be able to take a look at it because we've our police remain stretched thin at this point.
No, absolutely, and that was the nature of the conversation with Denise as well. Was you don't need crime is better this year than it was last year, to be sure.
Yes.
But you still don't need police chasing down noise complaints all the time.
Anything we can do to help our police, we need
absolutely. I wanted to get in the budget, but we're just straight up out of time.
Next time.
So, yes, absolutely, in very short order. In the meanwhile, thank you for coming down this morning. I appreciate it.
Great to see you, Brian.
She is Councilwoman Laure White Adams. We always appreciate her time. All right, when we come back from